Good afternoon. Happy Thursday, everybody. It's Thursday, April 4th. It is full on Aries season, and I'm here for it. I'm Jennifer Schurter, and you're watching today's episode of Real Estate Recess coming to you live. We have a pretty good agenda for you. It's a solo show today. The last couple weeks, we've had some amazing guests. So thanks to those folks who joined me, but today you just get me. But I think we've got some good topics here to cover that I hope are interesting and some details about some things that are important to folks who are watching the real estate market or just generally curious about what's going on, trying to take those things and bring them to a local level for you here in Clackamas County. So our agenda today, everyone's, well, maybe not everyone's favorite shark, but I'm sure some of you think of her as your favorite, Barb Corcoran. Of course, she's a self-made real estate millionaire. She's got her thoughts on what's going to happen with the housing market if rates come down. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about Multnomah County. People are leaving Multnomah County. I'm sure that's probably not a surprise for some of you watching this. Leave me a comment if you're in Multnomah County and what your thoughts are. So where are they going? What's happening with migration trends in Oregon? So we're going to talk about that too. And then Safewise released their list of the safest cities in Oregon. And of course, how did Clackamas County fare? How did they come out on this list? So we're going to take a look at that too for those who are curious. And finally, what is going on with housing prices here in the Clackamas County area? Are they dropping? Are they going up? What in the world is happening? So we're going to take a look at that and bring you a quick market update. All that happening today. And leave me a comment. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know where you're watching from. And I would love to have you be part of the conversation today. So hope it's been a good week for you. So if you're ready, I guess we can just dive right in. Let me share my screen and I will show you this article from Forbes that talks about Corcoran. So as you see here, self-made real estate millionaire Barb Corcoran. So if you want to check this article out for yourself, it is behind a paywall, unfortunately. But she says that home prices could go up to another 10% if mortgage rates drop. Wow, another 10%. So as if things have not been growing in price a lot or enough over the last several years. But another 10% if mortgage rates drop. And why would that be the case? So if we think about what's happening right now, and we'll get into this a little bit more when we talk about the market update for the area too, because all of this ties together, I think, very, very well to give you a much bigger picture idea of what's happening here in the real estate market. So we are, in theory, if you look at the data and you look at the numbers, the best data available to us right now, we are actually still very much in a seller's market. We do not have a lot of inventory available here in the Portland, Oregon metro market. We're eagerly awaiting, so we're here on April 4th. So here within the next week, I imagine the RMLS will release the market action report for the month of March that will tell us what inventory is looking like for the month of March and how that's looking trending so far for 2024. So we don't have that data yet, but based on last month, we were well under 3 months of inventory. And what that means is it would take about 3 months to sell everything on the market if no other houses came to the market at all. So if we think about the rule in real estate is that anytime we have 6 months of inventory or less, we're technically considered a seller's market by that particular rule. So with less than 3 months of inventory, we're definitely in a seller's market. That doesn't mean that buyers don't have more advantages. I always liken the real estate market to like a hand of poker, a hand of cards that you're dealt, and you're just trying to figure out the best way forward with the cards you're dealt. So if you're a seller a few years ago during COVID, when there was a frenzy of buying activity because interest rates were so low, historically low, so low that we may never see that again in our lifetime, right? So there was a lot of people that just flooded the market to take advantage of the opportunity because your dollar just went a lot further when interest rates got down to 2.5 or anything around 3%. And people were able to buy a lot more house for their money. And honestly, that accounts for why we still have a low inventory number today. There's a lot of people who their mortgage rate is attractive and it's keeping in their homes a lot longer. They may need to make a move. It may not be, they may hate their house. They may have gotten into a property that doesn't really suit their needs, but they felt pressured to make a move because the rates were low and there were bidding wars and all of those things that we saw over the COVID era, 2020, 2021, and I would even argue into early 2022 here in our area. And it's incredible what that's done for inventory. They may not be comfortable in their house that they're in, but just the sheer fact that their rate is so low and it's so affordable is what's keeping them in their house right now. So that's absolutely contributing to our low inventory numbers. There's still a demand. There's still people out there that want to buy. The other side of that coin, and I'm going to flip over here to another site that I think is valuable, and that is our, let me just stop sharing here. This is Mortgage News Daily. And what this is going to show us is where we're at today with interest rates. Bear with me here. Here we go. Mortgage News Daily. So this is a website you can go to yourself. You can check it every day. There's even a handy app for your iPhone or your Android that you can download that will allow you to track this on a day-to-day basis. So what we have here is the 30-year fixed rate average is right here at 6.99%. So it's down about 0.08% over the previous business day. And again, this is an average. And you as somebody who's going to borrow money, when you look at this may or may not even be close to what you would receive as an individual borrower. Your lender, depending on your financial situation, could mean that your interest rate is lower than this. And also, it also depends on what type of loan you have, whether you have a jumbo loan, if you have an ARM, FHA, or VA loan. FHA and VA loans tend to be under that market average, so there's some advantages to those types of loans. But at the end of the day, the average right now is coming in at 6.99%. So over the last several weeks, we've hovered between that, 6.85 and 7.1 interest rate, have kind of been going back and forth in there. So going back to Barb Corcoran and what she talked about. So if rates come down, I think that the good news of what we've seen over the past several weeks is we've been in pretty consistent territory. We haven't seen any major jumps in interest rate. We haven't seen any major drops that are sudden that are going to open up another feeding frenzy. I don't think our market could support a massive drop. I think that could actually bring some really challenging times for buyers out there that need to buy. That rate drop would actually make it advantageous for them to make a move forward. So, but back to Barb Corcoran, if those rates do come down, what's going to happen? If we think of people who want to buy a house, and how did I explain this before? To help you visualize what it is that that this could look like for you. So if you imagine people who want to buy a house, they're siloed into rooms with interest rates. So let's say the interest rate that would make them move to make a purchase on a home, maybe for them it's 6.5%. So they're in that room in the interest rate hotel and the door is closed. They can't open the door to enter the market because we haven't gotten 6.5%. Then you've got all these doors of people where there's people inside these rooms of the interest rate hotel that once that rate comes to what their room number is, whether that's 6.25, 5.5, or whatever it is for them that would financially have it make sense for them based on their monthly payment, the door, as the rate hits that number, that door opens. So every time that rate goes down, you have more people entering the market. And as far as what that threshold is, or that pressure point of, what is that for the majority of people? What is that number? And if you have a number in your mind that would make sense for you, leave me a comment. Would love to know just your thoughts on that. What room are you in at the interest rate hotel? Would love to know that. So leave a comment. So what that number is for the public at large, we just don't know. So as soon as rates come down enough that people start to see that, okay, we can actually afford or accommodate that payment based on our income and our lifestyle and all the factors that come into play when people buy property. So as the rate comes down, those doors open. more doors open, more people come to the market. We don't have a lot of inventory, so that's something that we've already discussed. We're in a low inventory situation. Not enough houses and more people coming to the market means that we're going to have increased demand on a low supply. That is an economic equation, supply and demand, right? The more demand for something that there's not enough of, prices are going to go up. So that is what Barb Corcoran is referring to. So hopefully that was useful to you. Let me know if you have any thoughts about this, whether or not it's 10%. And it could really all depend on geographic area, whether that happens here in the Portland Metro, Clackamas County, state of Oregon, whatever. It remains to be seen. No guarantees. Like I've said several times, I broke my crystal ball, so I have no idea. So I have no idea what's coming. But if it's 10%, if it's 5%, whatever it looks like, as rates come down, there's a very good possibility that we see that. But will rates come down? That's a whole other conversation. That really all depends on the moves that the Fed makes this year. There are several key players in the real estate market: Goldman Sachs, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, the National Association of Realtors, all of these folks that make their predictions about what's going to happen with interest rates based on the best data that we have available to us. The Fed has said they're going to cut the basis point, which, to explain this again, it's for those who aren't familiar. You have to think of that. The Fed is like a bank for banks. They're like up here at the very top. And the moves that they make with basis points up here does not mean that they're cutting interest rates. So when they say we're gonna cut things 0.25 or whatever they're doing up here, doesn't mean that interest rates are going to come down by that much. What that's doing is that's changing the bond market up here. That bond market is what feeds the mortgage market down here at the consumer level. So sometimes those increases or cuts are baked into the cake of the rates that are already there. So, but as the Fed decides to make those cuts, so, just put some vibes out to Mr. Jerome Powell, for those who are eager to buy a house and waiting for rates to come down. It really depends on if they're seeing that inflation's coming down, or if those markers in the economy are what they want to see. So they want to see inflation come down. They want to see, unfortunately, something they're watching is employment. They want to see unemployment go up. That's a sign that people are going to be more conservative with their spending. There's not going to be as much money out circulating in the economy, driving the whole cycle of inflation, right, for purchasing of things. So they want to see some markers like that: unemployment increasing and consumer spending down. The challenge is we've had a very robust and strong job market. People have jobs. Employers still need to find people to do work. So until those things, till the Fed is satisfied with what they're seeing, this very well could be the new normal. We may not see the rate cuts this year. It's really hard for me to say, yeah, we're going to see something with a 5 in front of it by the end of the year. Wouldn't that be amazing? That would really help a lot of folks out there looking to buy property. But that high 6s and maybe very low 7s could be the new normal for a little bit this year. So let me know what you think. Leave me a comment. Would love to know your thoughts on that. Hopefully that all makes sense and I didn't lose you, but always feel welcome to send me a message or leave me a comment with questions. I'd be happy to interact with you on that. So that is the news of Barb Corcoran and what her predictions are with what's coming should rates drop. So what was next on our list? We had lots of topics today. Let's see. How about Multnomah County? What's going on there? Anyone watching from Multnomah County or anyone watching that's moved from Multnomah County? Leave me a comment. Would love to hear from you. Multnomah County has lost several people per day over the course of a few-year period. So this article, I'm going to share it with you, is from the Portland Business Journal. They shared this interesting information. And get a load of this. Get a load of this. Multnomah County lost 14 people per day, every single day in 2023. That's a lot of people coming from a particular county. And in Oregon, not being exactly, I would say, the most populous state, that's a pretty good amount of people leaving Multnomah County every single day. And I'm sure those who are local here know what's going on. They watch the news, they see what's happening in Multnomah County, and there are some challenges, and they're working on, I think, trying to find solutions through what's going on there. Um, but I think that there's a lot of reasons that people are leaving. We still see some of that COVID era migration to other states. I call into my memory from several weeks ago. We talked about some U.S. Census data of where people in Oregon, if they're leaving Oregon, where are they going? So we know California and Washington are top places for people who leave Oregon, where they go. Idaho being another one. Arizona is high on that list, but so is Texas. And I want to say, quite a few people went from Oregon to Texas over it, according to that U.S. Census data. But anyway, nationally, according to this article on the Portland Business Journal, about 60% of American counties saw positive net migration between 2022 and 2023. So that migration, people moving from state to state or even from county to county, there's still people making moves quite a bit around the country. There's also lots of other things coming into play. A lot of employers are starting to want people to come back to the office more consistently and get out of this work from home cycle. Whether or not that becomes commonplace again, it's like putting the toothpaste back in the tube. Are people willing to give that up now that they've been allowed that opportunity? So if you are one of those people who works from home, and you work for an employer, you're not self-employed, leave me a comment. Let me know what your company's doing. And if they're asking about the flexibility of you to be coming back to the office more often. So the state now, and I'm wondering if this is a typo on here, because it says the state lost about 11,600 residents between 2020 and 2023. But then it says Multnomah County, the state's largest, had a loss of more than 26,800 during that period. So I'm not sure if something's not adding up there. Washington County, so another county here in the Portland metro area, the Tri-County, lost about 2,265 during that time. So I'm wondering if Multnomah County, if that's maybe supposed to be 2,680, something like that. But how did Clackamas County fare? What happened here? Did we have a net loss of people? Clackamas County actually gained 705 people over that time. So we had positive growth. A lot of people coming to Clackamas County for a number of reasons. So I thought that was very interesting. Very interesting indeed. Lots of migration still happening, lots of people still going. And if they're not coming to Oregon, they're probably in the country thinking about going to Texas or other states, because right now Texas is getting 150 residents per day. A lot of them going to Harris County, which Harris County, I think, if I'm not mistaken, is Houston, the Houston area. So anyhow, very interesting indeed. So let's see, let's move on. This is related, but also to this, why people are leaving Multnomah County, where they might be going. Safewise released their list of the safest cities in Oregon. And I know as a real estate agent, I have to be careful about this, because it can be considered a code of ethics violation. But what I'm going to do here is just report what this website says, and I'm going to allow you to do your own due diligence and research about what this means to you. But I thought the parallels were interesting. So we know that 700 and some people came to Clackamas County in 2023 based on that Portland Business Journal reporting. So how did Clackamas County shake out in Oregon's safest cities of 2024 list reported by Safewise? So I'm going to pull up this website. And again, I encourage you to do your due diligence. If you're considering moving, this is not going to be considered advice or personal opinion. This is truly just me reporting on the stats and what this website is saying, so that you can do your own research and draw your own conclusions. So here's the safest cities of 2024. Clackamas County. Clackamas County did really well. Take a look at this. So Clackamas County has 4 cities in the top 10. So we have Linn is the number 1 safest city according to Safewise. Canby, my hometown, is coming in at number 2, the number 2 safest city in Oregon. Number 3 is Milwaukee, and number 4 is Lake Oswego. So rounding out that top 10, we have Central Point, Newburgh, Dundee, Lebanon, Bend, Monmouth, and Prineville. So really interesting. So if you're wondering, if you think, okay, so people came to Clackamas County, as people do their own due diligence, perhaps they're making their own connections about where to go here in the state of Oregon or in the metro. And maybe they're looking at information like this, and that's helping them determine where they're going to be landing next. So again, please, I'm encouraging you to do your own due diligence. I think this is really interesting information. It is a question people ask a lot. And when I have clients asking me about, well, how safe is this community? What can we expect? Is this a nice neighborhood? I really can't give them answers. I know what I feel about it, but as part of my code of ethics, I really have to be careful. So I always encourage folks to do their due diligence. Sites like Safewise are a great place to do that. You can go and research your own crime statistics. The thing is, this stuff's so subjective. What's safe to me or what's safe to anybody else you may not have the same idea as me. So that's why it's always a good idea to dig in and do your own due diligence on this. So here are the 10 safest cities of Oregon. Really interesting to see that Clackamas County has 4 of the top 10. Pretty interesting information. So what's next? Our final topic on our agenda today, we might be actually a pretty quick show today. We're going to tie some of the things we've talked about today into a nice little bow by talking about what's happening with the real estate market here in Clackamas County. Are housing prices increasing in Clackamas County, or are they decreasing? We know that we are in a seller's market. We know that interest rates are higher. That's making it more challenging for buyers to be out in the market buying a home right now. So going back to our deck of cards, our hand of cards in our hand, sellers, you just so happen to hold more good cards in your hand than a buyer does right now. You have more to work with, let's just say. More on your side. You've got low inventory, lack of options for people to look at, and perhaps your home is the hot home in your neighborhood. So there's lots of things to consider with that. Buyers have fewer cards, although I will say as higher interest rates have come up, it's given them more to work with in terms of their hand of cards and what they're able to negotiate. So it's the give and take, right, of the poker game of negotiation. So what is happening with Clackamas County real estate? So we're going to take a look at something here that I think is going to give you a really good idea. That's not what I want. Bear with me here while I put something up for you. Here we go. So what you're looking at here, this is a report of Altos data. Thanks to First American Title for providing this here. This is an average of Clackamas County from Altos. So Altos they report data on what's happening with the real estate market, with sales and pricing and all that good stuff. It's released every single week. So this is very fresh data. This is not stuff that's stale and old. Compared to the RMLS data, where we're talking about our inventory numbers and things like that for the metro in general, that is from the previous month. So that's always trending a month behind. Also, this really allows us to dig into what's happening in real time in a certain area. So that's why we can take a look at Clackamas County specifically and get a good idea of what's going on here. So I unfortunately can't circle anything on the screen for you, but I will do my best to describe what's happening here. So down on the bottom right corner, we have this little box that says real-time market profile. And this is where I tend to spend the most time when I sit down with somebody and we talk about what's happening in the real estate market. I like this box because it gives us, it's kind of like, here's your buffet of information that's easy to look at. It's all right there. And so what we're going to look at are a few things. We'll have our median list price is at the top. So that median list price, that's the middle price point. If we took all of the prices of all the properties for sale in Clackamas County and listed them from high to low, that middle price of let's call it $775,000 roughly, is our median price of listings here in Clackamas County. If they're a new listing, so we taking a look only at the new listings that are on the market, that comes in at, let's call it $690,000 roughly. So that's what the new homes, the median price of new listings, not new homes necessarily, but new listings in Clackamas County. So, and you can see next to that is that squiggly looking line on both of those numbers. And that shows you kind of what's happened over the last several months of the data with those two data points. So you can see it's kind of climbed a little bit, or maybe it's dropped down, but it's kind of going to be on this kind of steady little line. I predict it's probably going to be pretty similar. It might even go up as we continue into our spring market. Spring market's when a majority of people are out shopping in our area. So it tends to drive demand a little bit more. So we might start to see that uptick a little bit more. But again, I don't have my crystal ball. So we'll just keep an eye on it. So the next thing I'll bring up to you is this average days on market. So that's taking that's basically looking at how long is it going to take for the properties in the area to sell on average. So that's coming in at about 110 days. Now, what's interesting about days on market, and I'll show this in the next slide we'll look at, our average can be skewed with our days on market because properties that are more expensive, anything $1 million or more, those tend to stay on the market longer because there's just fewer people out there looking for homes in that price point. The buyer pool is much smaller than if we're comparing that to, say, something at $400,000 or $450,000, or even one of those other ranges that a lot more people would be looking at. So average days on market, if there's a large number of properties in a higher price point and that their average days on market is higher, it's going to skew this number. So right now our average is about 110 days. Then if we look at our median, again, that's our middle point. It's coming in at about 42 days. That's pretty darn fast speaking. I mean, for all intents and purposes, 42 days is a pretty quick time. That's assuming right now a 30-day close, which is pretty average. And that means you'd be on the market for 12 days. So not quite 2 weeks before maybe you get an offer, accept it, and you have your average 30-day close. So anyway, so that's an interesting point as well. So that's about, we could call median prices and looking at those first two data points, well, about how much our home's selling for. And we could look at our average and median days on market to get an idea of, well, about how long is it taking for homes to sell in Clackamas County right now. So those two pieces really answer those questions. So yeah, so I want to know what you think. So if you are watching your neighborhood and you see stuff going on the market, what's happening in your area? Love to hear about it. So leave me a comment on that. So the next one I'll point to you is, I call it the cautionary tale metric. And that is this price decreased. And that is properties who have decreased their prices. Right now in Clackamas County, that's about 27% of properties. And there's a number of reasons for this to have happened. Yes, there's still what I would call aspirational pricing in the market. And that is people saying, well, yes, the data might say my house could sell for $600, but I want to sell it for $650, and that's my hard number. We still see that in the market. Even if the comparables, even if sales in the area, the data just doesn't quite show that that's the reality for that property. Ultimately, the seller's the boss in that case, and it's their property, and they make that decision as to what that price is. Whether or not a buyer is going to pay that is another story. They might think it's worth that, but ultimately the buyer is the one that determines the market value. And you could argue the appraiser. The appraiser comes in and verifies it or says yay or nay on that value. So we do see aspirational pricing. It could also be, there could be motivated sellers. Maybe they need to make a move. Maybe they've got a job relocation and trying to get buyers going and coming in the door. They might drop the price a little bit. So we've seen price drops. That's the line next to the left of that 27%. Kind of shows you the history of where that has been over the last several weeks and few months. There was quite a bit more at the far left side of that line. It came down and it's kind of leveled off and increased just a little bit. So then we go down to inventory. That is the total number of properties for sale. Right now in Clackamas County, we're coming in at 592 properties. That is only, so those properties are only ones that we have something called a certificate of occupancy. That means that if it's new construction, then it's absolutely move-in ready. You could get the keys today and move in, and it's ready to go. It's not including some of those listings that you might see out there that is just a rendering and it's been on the market. Maybe the property hasn't started yet. So those are not included in this number. This is only things that are able to be move-in ready right now. So our next figure, we're just going to show graphic representation of what has happened over the last few years. So what's cool about this, so this graph at the top, it kind of looks like a backwards ski slope in a sense, ski jump, but it's cool because it demonstrates what's happened to pricing in Clackamas County since 2019, mid 2019, so pre-COVID, and where things were. So September 2019, we were at the bottom. And then once we hit 2020, wow, talk about a rapid on-ramp, things just going up like crazy over that 1 year period between March of 2020 and March of 2021. Then you see in there that around, let's call it August-ish in 2021, we hit our peak and we kind of plateaued there. And since that time, things have come down a little bit and leveled off. Might even, you could say, since about September 2021 and on, we've had almost kind of a little bit of a flattening and a slight decline. We're still well above where we were in pre-COVID years. Now, again, this graph is for median price points. We are well ahead of where we were in 2019. So are things coming down? Are things increasing? If you look at this graph, you could say, well, if your expectation is, are we going back to pre-COVID prices? Is that where we're headed? Based on the best information we have, I don't see it. I don't see that being the case. I think we'd have to see some pretty significant economic shakedowns to see anything like that happen. Not saying that's not possible, but looking at this alone, if things are coming down, it's a moderation. Maybe it's a slight, it's a leveling off of pricing. Maybe maybe even a tiny decline. I want to say the Portland, Oregon Metro in our average sale price in 2023 was down something like 0.2%. So very, very minimal decline in pricing. But, as we look at this, and that number could be wrong. So but it was very slight. It was a very, very slight, like something like 1 or 0.2%. And that was it. But what we're looking at here is it's a moderation maybe, but it's not a stark decline. We might even take a look at this through 2024 and say we could probably reasonably expect to see modest increase in prices. So if you're a homeowner and you want to know what's going to be happening with real estate prices or perhaps with the value of your home, there's a very good chance you could see a modest increase in your home value over 2024. We're not going to see this idea of 20% appreciation. I really don't think that's going to happen unless something dramatic happens with interest rates. That would be terrible. That would mean further trouble with inflation. There's no way. We cannot support this economically to have rates go back down again. So going back to that talk about Barb Corcoran, her prediction, if rates come down, pricing increasing by 10%, going back to Mortgage News Daily and the talk, all of that talk with the Fed, tying this all together in a nice little bow. Economically, we cannot sustain low historic interest rates. It's just our economy can't do it. Housing prices would absolutely spiral out of control. And I just don't know that's not the best thing for our economy. So anyway, tangent aside, are prices increasing or decreasing? I think we're going to see a moderation, a leveling off. And if rates do come down, we could see an uptick in 2024. That's my prediction for that. So market segments, again, a few minutes ago, we talked about our median time on market, our average time on market, how that can be skewed by properties that are more expensive, that take longer to sell. Well, at the very bottom, you see this market segments piece. So there's 4 lines with 4 different prices represented in this graph. So each segment, each of those prices represents 25% of the Clackamas County market. The prices you see there is the median price for each of those 25% sections. So at the top, we have a median price of 1.9. That is the top 25% of properties in Clackamas County. And if you go all the way to the right, you see days on market's around 126 days. So by the time you factor that in, that average into all the properties for sale, you could see how those numbers can easily skew higher. Then you have the others, you go down to the bottom 25% at $540,000 median price point. That's taking 28 days for total days on market. That's fast. That's a very quick sale, especially even today. Again, we're getting into the spring market, so people are starting to buy. It's just the timing is right. And 28 days on the market, it's a quick sale, quick close. Lenders, a lot of them can even close faster than 30 days these days. So that is what is happening there. So let me know what you think. I would love to know your thoughts on what's happening in your neck of the woods. What are you seeing? What is your opinion? Everybody has one. Be happy to have you leave me a comment to let me know what your thoughts are about what is happening with pricing in the market and all that good stuff. But other than that, that's my show for you today, everybody. That is our whole agenda. And always happy to hear from you. You're absolutely welcome to leave me a comment or send me a message. Or hey, how about this? If you're looking to make a move around the Portland, Oregon metro area, here to Clackamas County, to the North Willamette Valley, you ought to subscribe to this channel. Hit the bell to be notified when I have some new videos. Or, even just hit a like. Just like this video. Leave me a comment. That's all great stuff too. And I'm Jennifer Schurter. I'm a real estate expert here in this neck of the woods. And I hope you'll look me up if you decide to make a move here someday. Have a great Thursday, and I will see you next week where we'll have an even more fun-packed agenda. Take care, everyone.